Good evening, my name is Michael Muddett, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission of the Town of Monroe. Today's date is June 28th, the time is 7:03. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to introduce the members of the commission and staff present tonight. Starting to my far right, we have Commissioner Jeffrey Samas, who is a certified ecologist and soil scientist, also a professional wetland scientist. To his left, we have Ross Mascaracco. To his left, we have Jim Stewart, who is a professional engineer and licensed land surveyor. To his left, we have Megan Hayden, who's a licensed attorney in the state of Connecticut. I'm Michael Muddett, I'm the chairman. Next to me on my left, I have Jason Grady, our vice chairman. Next to him, Lois Spence, our secretary. And next to her, we have Donna Straczynski, who is our inland wetlands and land use coordinator. Next to her on her left is Scott Schatzline, who's our town engineer, land use director, who is a professional engineer and also our inland wetlands agent. And up front, we have Rebecca Wood, who's our recording secretary. Before we start, I'd like to read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. In the normal course of our meetings, we'll have public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have the applicant make a representation or presentation to the commission, during which and after the commission will be asking the applicant questions. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will be then opened up for the public for comment. I'll ask that all comments be made to the chair of the commission. After any and all comments pro and opposition of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There are no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered into evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep any and all comments pro, con, or general specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to our agenda tonight?
Yes. We have, under item number 2, application hearing determinations, I-12-05-A1, 119 Bart Road. It's an amendment to a previous approval to relocate a residential well. We have several requests for continuances for all public hearings. And I have 2 items under enforcement, which is item 11 under 11B. I've added IWV 2016-09 and IWV 2016-10, which is 1603 and 1615 Monroe Turnpike, Mondo, and IWV 2017-07, 127 Main Street, Keeler. And that's all the changes that I have right now.
All right, thank you very much.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
First, we'll start with the minutes of, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. We'll start with the minutes of May 24th.
I
which
did not get the
Changes.
last part of that change, so they'll have to be tabled till the next one.
Okay.
But the other one should be okay.
All right, so we'll table the first set of minutes.
May 24th.
May 24th, yes. And then I'll entertain a motion for the minutes of June 14th, 2017.
Move to approve with changes.
Second.
I have a motion approved by Lois, a second by Jason. What are said changes?
Okay, on page 2, the second bullet, says when public works equipment currently crosses the bridge. I believe it's supposed to be crosses the river because the equipment can't cross the bridge, from my understanding.
Yep.
Yeah, there is a,
There is a bridge, but the
But they said
equipment can't go
they
over
ford
it.
the river.
They go through the river.
oh.
So that's one. And page 3, to the last set of bullets, the second bullet, you see, we have, tier one vernal pools are limited in town, require protection, removal 90% of them is do not result in maintaining the health of these vernal pools and the wetlands. Instead of or in.
Yep.
Sorry. That's okay, no, you did a great job. This was quite the meeting, you did fabulous. You really did. It was, and I believe that is it for me, if anybody else has anything.
Any other changes? Yes, Jeff.
I think it just might be a typo with the keystroke for the C on page 9 of 9, Department of Public Works, the regulatory section, 4.2C, it's a copyright symbol.
Yeah, it is just
Just
a,
a, yeah,
yep.
probably autocorrect.
Okay.
All right, great. Any other changes? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
All right, we have abstentions from Megan and Jim. Okay. The next item on our agenda is general public participation. This time we reserve on our agenda for anybody in the public who'd like to make comments about to the commission about any inland wetlands related topics. We just ask that if there is anything that's on the agenda tonight, we please wait for them and we will address it during that time. Does anybody who'd like to make comments to the commission tonight? Seeing none, we'll continue on. Next section is application hearing determinations. I-1205A1, 119 Bart Road.
You received those in your packets this evening?
I'm gonna murder that last name. How do you say that last name?
I have no idea.
All right.
Smatula?
Yeah, there you go. What she said.
Zamatula,
Is that much of a little? Okay.
that's what I'm thinking.
Give me a second.
No worries.
No.
Okay, bear with me because I did not get a chance to review this yet. But so this is an amendment. Apparently, this was a development plan that was approved back decision letter was dated 8/2/12. So back in 2012, there was a decision on this. Just give me a second, I'm still missing something here. All right, so I have a notation that the required conditions of approval were met and the approval letter was filed on the land records. And so it was ready to move on to the next step. They met the conditions of the approval. They didn't post the bond, and so it sat on the shelf. Meanwhile, their 5-year period is ticking away, and we come to this point where they made the change that they're indicating in this submission, submission for an amendment, is that they moved the well. The health department requested that the well be moved. I think it was too close to the recharge systems. So they're moved up toward the top of the sheet. I think that's in the, I want to say, westerly location. Also, in the review of approval process, when we were signing off on this thing, the house itself is not the same footprint either. It's very similar. It's certainly within the window of the original approval, and at the time it was handled administratively. It didn't get sent back to you guys because it was similar, and it was well within the envelope that you had approved. So, but I wanted to point that out, since they're coming back before you with an amendment, you might as well know the difference between the two. That's basically it. Everything else stays the same on the property.
Okay.
You know, if you recall, I mean, some of you may remember this, there was an area along the wetlands, actually almost through the wetlands that they had disturbed with the track machine when they went in to do their testing, that you guys wanted them to restore. And there is a shed southeast of the house that is encroachment, and they're supposed to remove that. This shed is really the neighbor's shed, so I'm waiting for an application to come in for the property next door. I don't know if it's being relocated back to their property or whether it's being removed entirely.
Okay. Do we know what the previous application was in 2012? Was it a regular or public hearing?
I thought I included the previous approval with it, and I could be wrong.
It was a public hearing.
Okay.
I move that we bring this to regular hearing and that there is very little change to there's no substantial change to the actual layout of the property.
Second.
A motion by Lois, a second by Jason. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of moving to a regular hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving right along. All right. So we have the subdivision report. My guess is that's gonna be delayed along with the other part of the application,
Yes, in
correct?
this evening's packets, you received letters.
Yeah, so we got a letter from Soli dated today to address to the commission. On behalf of the Treasurer, we respectfully request to continue the public hearing proposed four-lot non-residential subdivision located at 36 Timothy Hill. Based on our recent discussion with the commission members during the last couple of years, we're still working to provide thorough responses and updated engineering drawings in advance of this hearing. So they're requesting to continue the hearing until next meeting, which is scheduled for July 26th. This will give adequate time to provide comprehensive responses based on a discussion and to ensure that the commission has revised plans in advance of the hearing.
Okay. All right, moving on to regulated activities. The first public hearing is also Timothy, which we just heard has requested an extension. The next one is IWC 2014-04, 24 Commerce Drive, Commerce Holding, which I believe has also requested or extension due to legal notice.
That is correct. And
Okay.
you got that letter in your packet.
Yep. All right, next one is IWC 2017-08, 124 Enterprise Drive, M&J Verendia LLC. This is also requested we postpone to the July 26th meeting, as we have a busy meeting.
So we received a letter from Cohen and Wolf, Patricia Sullivan, dated June 26th, and it's addressed to the chairman. This letter is respectfully request that the above captioned matter currently scheduled for the Wetlands meeting for June 28th, 2017 be rescheduled or continued to the next scheduled commission meeting. The request is made so that the staff comments can be properly addressed.
Great. Okay, moving on to enforcement. We have the first remediation submission is IWV 2017-08, 786 Main Street, Edgerton, mitigation of existing disturbances.
No, I don't have that.
Well, we received, she's looking for it now, we received a request for an extension on that. I'm wondering almost if it was verbal and I had asked them to send you something, and I'm wondering if they did not do that.
I don't think
So we would have to follow through with that and get the written, but I received a phone call and I spoke with Jim Swift, who told me that he had a public hearing in another town and he had to go to, so he couldn't make the meeting. And he also needed a little bit more time to address some of the concerns that the commission had.
Okay,
So he's working on that. Now, you didn't get anything?
I did not.
Okay, so make a note on your sheet that to call him and get that.
Thanks for the record, I think a lot of the commission members did site walks this week, and we were told the same thing by
Mhm. By
the
the
representative of the landowner, said that they were gonna ask for a continuance because Mr. Swift had something else.
Yep, okay.
Good deal. All right, next remediation submission, V1207-R, 137 Elm Street, Pernick. Restore and establish erosion control previously in a disturbed regulated area. Is the applicant here tonight? If you'd like to come forward?
Now, before they get started, I just wanted to say that I did not get a chance to give you written comments on this. Just kind of went over it today. And on an administrative level, I did notice.
Right there, yeah.
I did notice, unless you guys have it with you, that you checked off that it is within the public water supply watershed. And the next part of the sentence was that you're supposed to do a notice to the Aquarian Water and the Commissioner of Public Health.
Yes,
Did you do that?
Yes.
You have that with you?
and I brought the receipts in
Perfect.
to your
perfect.
office.
Yeah, you can give those to us now. Oh, you
You
brought
brought
them
I
to the
I
office?
brought them into the office and
Okay, so maybe I missed that. I did it very quickly, so I might have missed it. I don't see it there.
He may have them.
All right, so,
So we can make it, just a note on this.
and with that, why don't you introduce yourself and start off with, basically what happens at this point is, a remediation submission is handled very similarly to, the same as a application for development. So what you would be doing is you're going to explain to the commission the plan that you submitted, what it shows, and what you are proposing to do to address the issues out there. Give me a second, and I scanned your plan, so we'll see if we can get that up and running.
It was 137 It was already open.
Oh,
Go back up to IWC, which is highlighted. Current. One down, 137, there you go.
I did it so quickly.
It's okay.
All right.
The bottom.
While we're pulling that up, if you want to just introduce yourself for the record?
yeah, my name is Otto Pernick, owner of the property.
And I'm Paul Brodigan, land surveyor. I drew up the plan for Otto, and I'm here basically to help Otto, help you guys understand the plan and really answer as many questions as you have.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, no, it just got scanned.
So this is your plan.
Zoom out a little bit, if you can.
So,
Yeah. Okay, good.
and if you take that mouse, you can actually move that little hand around.
Okay, now, zoom, yes, sweet. Okay, so the property you see here, this is Otto's property here. This was a previous submission, I think most of you probably do know, for George Baghdadi. I drew that plan up for him with his direction. He's the one who was doing all the legwork, finding what should go on the plan, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm helping Otto with here is pretty much just expanding that plan with the same types of plantings in this area. And I guess all of you have been out here before, probably numerous times. I feel this planting works very, very well. Being out here quite a few times in the last 6 months, this area right here pools up with water now. It's kind of being slowed up right in this area right here. And my proposal is to maintain that, but give us a planting bed around that with the topsoil and then the same plants that George was using down here. These plants seem to work in this type of environment, as best I know, and then the native grasses would be the enhancement to the erosion there. I really don't want to touch this area. It seems to be growing in pretty well right now. And with this hay bales here, unless somebody has a better idea without disturbing it, I think that will cause the water to potentially just hold there a little bit before it stops the erosion of the new soil here until this grows in. But I think it's a decent enhancement to what's there now, because nothing's really growing in this area because of the soil types and the compaction.
Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
I'm Paul Brodigan, I'm the land surveyor,
What was it, Paul?
Brodigan.
Oh.
Nice to meet everybody here, this is the first time
I actually have seen your name before, I
I'm sure my
recognize it,
name's
I
been
bet
seen
we
before,
haven't
but I
met.
don't see many people in my day. So this being the first submission, it's really kind of, you guys are really the experienced ones in the room with this type of stuff. You've seen many of these. I just feel that this is it's not very complex. It's really not going to do much with respect to hurting anything now if you go through the proper procedures, putting your erosion control in first, then spreading this existing pile, which is right here, just get it up against the bank. And this has already been done. I was out there today. This has already been graded down, and I guess they've got a pile of topsoil waiting right here to go in. They haven't done any plantings in here yet. Hopefully, Otto can get the same people that are doing George's and do it at the same time, and just have this whole thing all done at the same time.
Did you say that big open spot, I can't find my plan for some reason, or I had it, just before I left it disappeared.
Right here?
Yes, that big open area, you said that's not growing anything?
Right now, there's very little growing really from, in this entire area here. You got a little bit of grass growing, maybe a blade every square foot. It's very, very minimal. There's not much growing in
Is
there
that the filled area? Had that
now.
been filled?
I don't think any of this was filled. I think this is all excavated out to subsoil, and that's why you're not getting anything growing in here. I was on this site 20 years ago when I first surveyed the property for Baghdadi, and I remember there being a wetland area there. And then, it's come back 20 years later, and it's completely different from when I was there before.
I believe I'm the only commissioner that was on the commission. I don't know, does anybody else remember walking this? I know I did, but I
Has
don't think
anybody walked
else
it
did. I
in the
did.
last year?
No, not since
How-
this originated, quite a while ago.
From this point up here, okay, the slope's coming down. This has all got grass growing in it now, and different types of grass are growing in there, and some wildflowers growing in there, and they're all 2 to 3 feet tall now. But right around here where I have this measured, the silt fence, or the hay bales, is where we feel located that line. And I just don't think anything should be touched here at this point, because you're probably gonna get other things that start seeding in this area. We've got hardwoods all the way around. This is a major wetland, I call it a swamp, there. And this area here it's holding water right now. It's out there today. You can still see the dark soil. I mean, after each rain, it probably holds water. So getting back to what it used to be, there used to be a little pond in here, 20 years ago. How deep, I don't know. I mean, it was a long time ago.
So your concept of the hay bales is for what reason?
The concept of the hay bales here is don't touch this. It's okay.
Okay,
Don't do
okay,
anything
got
there, and
that.
that's gonna stop, because the soil type here is still not the greatest. It's probably similar to this, but it's growing well now. So if I put hay bales here, that's gonna hold any additional erosion, and also when I'm putting my topsoil in here, it's not gonna let that erode out with any big rain. Once you topsoil this, you gotta stop the water from getting to the
Right.
seed takes.
So is there substantial erosion in that upper portion?
I would say no, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I mean, that's growing fairly well right now, as it is. And then my thought here, okay, and obviously, when you're doing any kind of work, you can't really, nothing's getting into this wetlands because you got a 2 or 3, 4 foot high berm right there. So the only way this erosion is getting through, it's right through here. I want to block that off with hay bales, reestablish the earth here for planting, and let this, and bring it up a foot in elevation with the 431 contour, and this will pond up even more. And then with these, the native-berry and the black chokeberry around it, that'll create a nice little environment in there.
Well, we have a couple of professionals on
Yeah.
the board in that respect.
Well, I'm
I'm
sure
not
you-
one of
I'm
them,
sure
so hopefully they'll have some input.
I
As
await
to what would
their, I
be a
await
good-
their input. I would love the input.
So I'm trying to understand the old wetland area.
I don't know exactly where that was. This is what was flagged some time ago, okay? years and years ago, okay? So that must have been where the wetland was before it was excavated.
So, I mean, you said you've been involved with this property for a while, so this was pre you getting involved in the property that was flagged.
When we did our survey, we did a boundary survey for staking the boundary. We didn't do any topography, any
Fine,
wetlands
yeah.
location, but it's I'm guessing, I'd have to look back at my records to see when those came from, but it's clearly not that anymore, because when we had the soil scientists go out just recently, that was not reflagged.
So that was part of my confusion, was reading the soils report. It really said, it didn't sound like they surveyed that area at all.
The soil scientist was sent out there to do wetlands on Otto's property, okay? This entire piece, because I gave them the topography map of this property, and that's what they went out there. And they flagged the wetlands. They didn't flag this as wetlands at all. And I think there was there something in that report that said it was not?
I mean, they said that no study was done. Wait a second, sorry. Can't look at my numbers, but
I'd be.
yeah, a detailed classification of soils was not part of the study. However, field observations of wetlands and upland soils together with classification systems of the different classification
So what's
bodies.
that?
So I guess,
They didn't do borings there, but they're looking at it and they're saying it's not wetlands.
okay.
That's my interpretation of that.
I think if I could just add a little bit of history or whatever. I think that may be due to the fact that when I originally went out and this whole violation started some time ago, this whole area, really the whole area, this encroaching into the abutting property was a gravel pit. And it was a hillside, and to some degree. I don't know exactly what caused this wetlands originally, but it looked to me like, just studying the topo, it looked like it was a side hill bleed out maybe. But when I went out, this whole hillside here was, and then this lower portion was just totally dug out. And there was a contractor in there, he dug out all it was good septic gravel, sandy septic gravel. They dug it all out and sold it and got rid of it. And so when I find this wetland at all, I mean, it was just a dry earth basin. I mean, it was bone dry. And all I could, which puzzled me, because usually if it's a bleed out and they excavated it more, you would expect it to be still bleeding out, right?
Right.
But I didn't see any signs of that. And so, like, usually if there's a wetland and you dig deeper, you keep digging in wetland soils, you know, it's in wet soils. So I was kind of hoping that we get some information on that as to why that was, you know, what exactly was there and what's there now relative to that wetland. This over here, I don't remember seeing anything that resembled any kind of a brook or inlet or whatever this is here. Now, maybe that's a little bit more prevalent now, but when I was first looking at it, again, it was just piles and barren
We
there.
were out there, we were out, let's say, 3 months ago, back
Yeah.
in March, and or April, were the first nice days in April. And it was pooling up in there, okay? It was still, you know, it wasn't running off here, but you could clearly, water was coming at, as I have it right here. This is where it was pooling up, and it was actually, there was a slight flow going out. So is that just the groundwater coming up from here? It could very well be.
Could be.
And as for when you were there and it was excavated, was it level or was it cut down in?
It was level.
And that's
And
what
that-
it is now, so
yeah.
I was wondering when, so, because I wasn't there before. I came out the most recent time, it was just for George to.
Well, that's why I
It's
was-
the first time I've seen it in 20 years. It's the
Yeah.
first time I stepped
When
foot
were
in
you
that
there,
place.
Scott?
What's that?
When were you there?
Oh,
Years ago, right?
2 years ago, maybe even
Okay,
longer.
so I was after that, because George called me up last summer.
Yeah.
So that's the first time I had been in there.
So that's really the history of it. It was just a gravel pit. And so there was this wetland, and I forget, but there is a plan that shows, this plan doesn't show it clearly, but there was a wetland defined respective to the brook here. And I don't, I was hoping that would be on here.
The brook actually is, it gets undefinable, but it's right here.
Yeah.
And then and then it goes that way.
Yeah, so there was a wetland, like in this area here, the wetland extended into this area. So I don't, that's not on your plan, so I guess that's,
But that, it could have been, but the tree size is in here. This is natural grade. This grade, these trees, these are not small trees, 20-inch oak.
so I guess
18-inch
all I'm saying is that you can get that information off the original plan, the same plan that this stuff came from, this information.
It was an old engineering plan, and that, I forget who the, I'll get back.
Yeah, I
in
thought
my
it had
files.
this stuff along the river too.
Okay,
Can we walk this?
The what?
Can we walk it?
should be able to.
Should be able to, yeah.
Yes, yes, you can.
I mean, is it-
You can, but I can't.
is it- I haven't seen it.
But you don't
recently.
have to.
There's a log bridge here, which
Yeah.
when I went
Which is still
out,
there.
It's still there.
not real easy to walk
No,
over
it's,
that. and
it's,
feel
and
comfortable.
I'm on my feet all the time, and I'm fairly athletic, and when I walk across it, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna break my ankle.
Yeah.
Even though if you have good balance and you're
If you have good
confident,
balance,
hey,
you
go for it, but
Yeah.
it's
Maybe
just.
it's
It's
easier
big-
to ford the stream.
You
It's
get any
big logs.
hesitation in your brain, it's like, yeah, it gets a little wiggy.
Yeah, it's big
Wow.
logs with gaps between the
My
logs.
goodness, okay.
Only a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, we
It's
can
not
always
as
lay
bad.
down
It's
and
not-
take a piece of
it's not that
plywood
bad.
with
you.
There's
Plop
dirt-
it
there's
down.
dirt between it.
Okay, that's what I would do.
There you go.
All right, so the old plan would be something to try to
Yeah,
find.
the-
And that would have been back in Baghdadi's first submission years ago.
and I've been working with Otto for a long time on this, and
You have.
I do appreciate his responsiveness. So, the issue though, at least for me, is that it's very difficult to work through these remediation submissions. Because, in some ways, I'm trying to water it down, trying to keep the costs down, because in many cases, the property owners don't have the money. Yeah, you could say, well, hey, it's their own fault. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I'm trying to be realistic about it. But on the other hand, these problems in order to fix them, in order to address things properly, you need certain information. And so maybe the commission could help out with, specifically what you want to see. But in my mind, I mean, typically, the applicant, if we'll call him an applicant, would have either a soil scientist or a wetland specialist, someone with them that can speak to, this is what was there for wetlands, this is what is there today, and this is what we think we can do with restoration relative to hydrology and what they're proposing. And a lot of times, it also involves proposing certain work and then having the professionals involved during the implementation to determine when the results are achieved. When, like, for instance, if this area here is to be a restored wetland, I'm hearing that it's holding water. If that's to be a restored wetland, how far do you go? To what depth do you go? When do you, this is a guide as far as the shape that you're shooting for, but then those, whoever you have can help from that point. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now, and that's a little bit of history and some of the problems that we have with trying to process these. And I would add too that for remediations like this, it's really important that the commissioners go out and look at it so you know what
Yeah.
you're dealing with.
I think walking the property would be huge. I mean, would it be possible for your wetland scientists to provide more information based on what they did the report
Yeah,
on?
she
Yeah,
said she
yeah.
would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be super helpful, and I think walking the property would also be very helpful. Like I said, I just kind of like to understand what the old wetland area is, and, it doesn't really call it out in the report saying, this is what I studied, and this is what this
mean,
is why I see, it, and this is why I think it's gone.
Like Scott said, you look at it and I I see it there because it was there before, and it's just data for you
Yeah.
to understand, but how am I interpreting it? Not the
Yeah.
way you're interpreting it.
Exactly.
It's
That's,
there, this is your starting picture.
yeah, we're used to wetlands lines like moving 5 or 6 feet from the, I know she mentions that field conditions change, you know.
Right.
Move in and out through field conditions, it's hard when the whole area disappears.
Yes, exactly.
So, it could have been wrong a long time ago, who knows, but. All right, is there any other questions from the commission for the applicant?
Maybe, I do have a comment, I guess. Is the wetland area that was flagged, that has the wetland flags, the 39, 40, the questionable one up on the western side? Yeah,
Yep,
that one up to the left. There must be a report somewhere, because there's flags out there and someone must have delineated.
that's the soil report that was. did
Yeah,
you
there-
submit that?
You got that submitted
There's a
to-
whole file that's available, that this was, there was an application to do this gravel permit, pit. And, they came, I guess it was you and, your neighbors,
Baghdadi.
what's his name again, Baghdadi's father,
George Senior.
George Senior, got together and they were doing it together. They came in, they got an approval for it, but never met the conditions of the approval. And so, it never, on paper, moved forward, except that they hired a contractor who came in and started excavating. You know, so there is information, you can pull that out of the older file, the original file.
That's in your wetlands office?
Yeah, yeah. You don't have that with you, Donna, today? The original file for this?
That was some time ago, yes?
It was
Oh, yeah,
some
long
time
time
ago,
ago.
yeah, I would say, yeah, we're talking
So is that
10-year vintage kind of thing.
maybe more?
Maybe more than that, yeah. Matter of fact, I think it is more than that, because it was, yeah, it's older than that.
I first started surveying there in '95.
I don't think it's that old. It's not that.
Somewhere between then and 10 years ago.
And now.
It's a pretty good guess.
Okay.
I seem to remember a plateau of excavated materials. Now, I don't know whether I walked
Yeah, there's a
through the
big flat
depressed
area.
area, or if I, yeah,
Right, did
but
you
it was
enter through
raised, not
Otto's property, or
sunken.
Did you enter through Otto's property or through?
Would have had to.
I entered over
You
the,
had to?
over the rickety
Yeah.
bridge.
Okay.
Right,
You know,
the
we
bridge.
parked in your driveway, and,
Yeah, so it would be.
you know, it was a while ago, long time ago. But I don't remember any kind of a depression, I just remember a plateau, which indicates to me that perhaps that more happened after we saw it.
Right.
So I don't know that, I'm just taking a wild guess.
The original application then, that data you have in your files
Yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't have any of it,
okay.
okay? If I had anything, it would have been for doing the topography, and maybe that's where that.
Yeah, you
probably
could
where
come in and get that
application-
information, but there was an application, there was an approval.
And how much of that would you want me to get to bring to the meeting?
It would definitely be helpful, anything that explains some of the wetland areas would be
So
helpful.
I'll go get my copies out of there, and then maybe
Well,
my,
I think it's really that you guys need them to have your soil scientists review based on
okay,
their
oh,
field
they're gonna
conditions.
do, right,
and
okay,
draw-
fine, I'm gonna,
draw
we're gonna
conclusions,
get
not
those copies.
necessarily-
Give them to Cynthia,
Right.
here you go.
Typically with remediation, I jump in, commissioners, if you really need to, but typically with remediation, the commission looks for restoration of wetlands. So if there were wetlands that aren't there anymore, they're looking for those wetlands to be restored. This is a difficult one because a lot of times when
Can't
you
figure out
guys
where it
are
went.
reviewing it, it's a
Or where it
situation
went.
where someone filled the wetlands. This is a situation where they excavated the wetlands, so the fix isn't as easy.
It's
You
a,
know?
it's
If the high,
a created wetland situation where
Create
they
the same square footage.
excavated down deep enough to hit groundwater, so the groundwater, it's a groundwater discharge area that's supporting, wetland characteristics.
right, they may end up
So
with
it's
more
wetland.
wetlands, we're saying.
So in this soils report, just so I understand this right, is only dealing with the eastern part of the property. 'cause
Correct.
That's what it references.
Correct.
And so what I was saying is, there's gotta be something that deals with that other wetland area, probably in the file, that talks about how that was delineated. And again, dealing with the whether, you know, soil scientist or biologist, that could, this doesn't explain the,
Doesn't explain this.
it doesn't
It
explain.
explains what's on the
Right,
other side of it.
It doesn't even have to explain the history, it doesn't explain what do we understand, to understand this wetland and the impacts and how are we gonna deal with it? What is the wetland? It sounds like there's multiple communities in here. If it's groundwater fed, if it's surface water, a combination. This swale that's through the wetland, you know, was the upper wetland connected to this at one point? Is there still, you know, any evidence of that, or is there groundwater just erupting out? So kind of the full picture of what is this? And it's associated with, you know, the brook, so there's riparian wetlands, so there's a riparian buffer that, you know, I kind of would be concerned about for the surface water quality in that brook that's on the eastern side of that wetland. And the other concern I would have is invasive species, where if you're seeding with what I'll call a very limited number of plants, the opportunity for invasives to take over and outcompete what you're putting in here is very high. I don't know what the seed source is offhand, or, you know, maybe a site walk, we'll be able to see it, but it's just looking to get a bigger picture of kind of what we're dealing with.
Okay, that's fine, that's all good.
So we have your permission to do a site
Yes.
walk?
You're welcome, you know,
Do you need
walk
to,
the
would you
property
like
if
to
you
be
would like.
notified, or should we just come in and do it?
anytime.
Anytime, okay. That would be fabulous, thank you very much, we appreciate that. Yeah, once we get a visual, we'll have a lot more information to work with.
So you guys have another meeting next month? Is that what this is?
End of the month.
So we'll pull together that next bunch of data, we'll get the soil scientists to review that older data, compare it to the newer data, and then come up with plan two.
So, the only thing I'll say, just for, you know, and no, you know, based on what just happened tonight, there's a lot of stuff that's moving to the July 27th meeting.
Oh,
So, Scott, I'd like to just put on the table for the rest of the commission too, is possibly moving this to our August meeting. I don't want to delay it, but the conditions have been pretty stable for a while, so I'm not
Absolutely.
thinking that a lot of things are changing on this property. So I just don't want to overload that meeting and make you sit through 5 or 6 public hearings for this. So the rest of the commission is fine.
And
I
you know,
think.
even the August may be difficult.
Right, so the August may be difficult too, so maybe, you know, a little longer, but if you will bear with us, we'd like to just make sure, you know, it gets addressed without
And what
waiting
gets
4
done, gets
hours.
done, right.
I know you obviously want to get this addressed and out of the way.
Yes, finally, yes. I would
Yeah.
like to be over with it.
Yeah.
Whatever I gotta do to remediate it, that's, I'm not,
No,
I'll offer it to the town, an acre of property, which that can consist of. I have 3.5 acres with my house that's in front of this. Offer it to the town, let them remediate it. I know they would take it after it was remediated. I offered it to George, because he has 8 acres that back that up. Another acre would give him 9. And he didn't, he said he'd had to talk to his brothers about it. Well, he would have had to remediate it. That was my deal with him. I'd give it to him.
But you gotta-
You take care of this.
Yeah, understood.
But he never did
Never
get back
never
to
came
me.
back to you, yes, sorry.
No.
I'm not looking to extend it, I just don't want you,
Right.
I might have to sit through a really long meeting for a presentation. But, if you work with the office, they'll find an appropriate meeting for you guys, I just don't wanna, I don't wanna extend it,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't wanna
just
draw it
asking.
out, I just
Next
wanna.
meeting's fine, you guys are booked, whenever we can get the data together, we'll bring it back in. That'll be, like I said, that'll be phase 2.
We'll shoot for August, but if we have to push it to September, but let's shoot for
And it
August.
is stable out there,
Yeah.
that, you do know that, so.
Unusual. Because that much as rain we had.
Yeah,
Yep, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome, thanks for hearing this, guys, girls, ladies.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, section 6 on our agenda, other IAA 2017-09, 94 West Maiden Lane. Herm, I'm guessing? Hermie? Okay, sorry about that. The installation of deer fencing in a non-disturbed area, fence information to be submitted, I'm guessing you guys are the property owners? Yes. If you'd like to come forward and introduce yourself, and then we'll just have Scott give a little background.
I'm John Hermy, 94 West Main Lane.
I'm Teresa Hermy.
Nice to meet you. So Scott normally just gives a little background, and then we'll
Sure.
go into the meat and potatoes. Yes, we do, because I saw it earlier. We came in
Let me
tonight's
look at one
stuff.
other thing, sorry.
Just saw it.
Okay, so you have the two up here.
Is it? Maybe not. Maybe not. Oops. Actually, I think we had this a while ago.
You did, actually,
talked about it.
yes, you did, but
Last
it's,
meeting.
this is actually an agent approval, and, Mr. Hermie was here and spoke with you about the fence, but we didn't have any, visual as to, one, where the fence was gonna go, or where the, what type of fence it was, and it was going to go right down to the water, so you guys wanted to have some more information and see what kind of fence it actually was.
All right, so typically, this is for their benefit as well. When people come in to the office, I can grant or process an administrative application called an agent approval. And that's when someone wants to do activity in a previously developed or disturbed area. So typically, if they're doing something in their yard, like this existing deck or a pool or a shed, and administratively. But what happens is when it goes into a wooded area, the commission has set a boundary for me that is considered a significant activity or could be a significant activity, therefore not appropriate for administrative processing. So what's happening here is this fence along here, this dotted red line is the 100-foot upland review area. So anything within this area here is regulated by the commission. This fence is outside of that, so that is certainly doable. You just have to deal with zoning and whatever permits apply or requirements apply. What happens though is when you take the 90 bend here and you come down through the wooded area in this upland review area, this regulated area, that is something that is considered a structure. And as such, it typically needs to go to the commission for their approval. And so that's where we were. At the last meeting, I kind of brought this issue before the commission, and you guys decided that, yes, in fact, that is a structure. There could be some issues with that, and you wanted them to submit an application to the commission for that. Now, I understand that you guys are here now, and you want to kind of explain a few more things, and you want to also talk about the type of fence that you're proposing. So that mouse there will
Switch over to the
switch
picture
over.
if you need to.
Yeah, so that does anything you want.
Yeah, so we were proposing installing it's a hex space fencing, 20 gauge black fencing with vinyl coating. And it would be mounted to black posts, which would be cemented into the ground. Let's see. Yeah, so it would be, actually it's in the other, there's another slide here.
It's further up.
If you go up, scroll up.
Oh, there we
you
go, okay. Yeah, so it's 90 inches high. And we were talking, several people in the town, and they were suggesting we raise it up 4 inches to allow any kind of turtles or wildlife to pass under it. So we'd raise it up 4 inches. And we're, let's see, as far as that's about the details on the fence. And
We did bring pictures that you could actually see. I didn't bring enough for everybody. so
That's
I'll
all right,
start
you can
over
pass
here.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly.
And might give you
Of the
better
area, yeah.
outlook. It starts here, where it's going down to the lake. this is kind of where the fence would go into the lake, and that's just seeing it before.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see the color. It's
There's-
How thick is the netting?
It's 20 gauge.
Yeah.
I don't know, gauge is down there.
It would be very
I
light,
don't
it's
know gauge.
kind of like, I don't wanna say it's chicken wire, but if you know chicken wire.
I know chicken wire,
Yeah,
sure.
so it's very thin like that.
Is it, okay, is it flexible or is it?
Yes,
It is
no, it would
flexible,
be
yes.
flexible.
And it's wire coated with vinyl?
Yes, yeah.
And you're doing the 1-inch hex or the 2-inch?
The 1 inch.
Now, why was your decision to make the 1 inch?
It kind of keep things from getting, like deer getting caught in it, or, with a bigger opening, there's a possibility that maybe deer might,
And
get
it's
their legs
also-
stuck in or
We
something.
wanted to go smaller because there's young kids around us. We're trying to protect them from just running straight to the lake.
That's
So
another
it would
Because
be-
the 1 inch is more bird problem.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't always see it, and they can get entwined in it quite easily. So that would be my concern.
Okay.
Now, on this picture, there's a post there. I don't know whether wetlands flag or property line.
We had it
That's property
surveyed.
line. We had it
so-
surveyed because there's no boundary between your property and my property,
Okay,
and
so
nobody really knows.
which
the
side
edge.
is yours?
This is ours,
Yours is okay. So was the fence be staying on that side?
on our side. We're
Okay.
a bit
Yeah,
foot
we'd
back,
set it back 12 inches
Okay.
from the
so
property
that we
line.
can maintain if anything happened,
And
or
this-
so we can get to
Does
both
that fit with
sides.
P and Z standards, the 12 inches from your property line?
They said you could go
Right to
right
the
up
edge,
to
but
it.
I
so-
wanted
Oh, they did say that,
Yeah.
okay, I wasn't sure what the rules were,
Yeah.
okay.
We're initially thinking 8, but we were gonna allow a foot, so if we had to maintain or
Right.
cut any branches from the other side coming in. Now, the start of the fence from the lake area would be, back about 8 feet, from the edge of the water. And, the ground is, it's not swampy, I mean, it's dry material. I mean, we had a survey done, but, when they were putting when they were putting the septic system in, they did kind of a soil test of that area, but not down by the fence there, I mean,
Could
kind
you
of
bring
in
it
the,
back to the map so we can,
oh, sure.
please?
So I mean, I think the overall question,
It's down here, I got it for you.
Okay.
the overall question we have to answer, right? I mean, we don't typically allow our agent to do anything in an undisturbed area, right? So that's very much an undisturbed area. So, I mean, I think it's gonna need a application for development if, I wanna see what the rest of the commission feels like, that's
The
my
structure,
thought. To structure it in an area that has not been yet disturbed.
How many footings and how far away from each other?
They're about every 8 feet. Yeah. It depends if you hit rock, you might spread it out more, digging the holes.
So when he hits rock, he's gonna spread them out.
Yeah,
Up to 9 feet
When,
or
yeah,
10
it's kind of
feet,
a given in
right,
Connecticut.
yeah. So it's very rocky, a lot of the Connecticut areas.
And how far back from the water's edge did you say you're?
It's about 8 feet 4 inches. So.
From the water's edge.
From
From the
Yes.
water's edge?
Yes.
So there's gonna be an opening then?
Yes.
And that's from the high water mark? Do you have a high and low water mark at all?
No, in there, at the lake, it's lower, unless, we've got lots of rain, then it might, will be higher.
Mhm.
But that part is the shallow, it's more out in the lake, is more the depth,
Okay.
the feet of it. 'Cause
Yeah, so it's about 2 to 3 feet above the water line where that fence would be started.
Elevation, not.
Yes, elevation, yeah.
Okay. And that green line is tree line, it is not wetland
Correct.
delineation?
There's actually, yeah, those are overhead trees. There's a lot of oak trees
Okay.
through that area.
Now, I don't have one of these maps in front of me. Is there wetland associated with the lake, or does it stay dry all the way down to the edge of the lake?
It is dry all the way to the edge of the lake, yeah. It slopes down.
How long is that distance? So it's 100 feet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
10 feet less than 100, yeah.
Okay.
The property length is 150.
Have you thought about putting in a hedge instead, some sort of a hedge or?
Is that an option, or that we wouldn't have to go through, I mean, the full permitting, or?
It's not a
Alright.
structure.
If you planted, I
Oh,
don't
okay.
see that being.
Yeah,
a
adding
regulated
plantings,
activity.
Oh, that
I
doesn't,
mean, cutting down trees would be a disturbance, but, you know,
Right,
adding
right.
plantings is not typically a
Yeah.
problem. But a dense enough hedge
mhm,
to have the same effect.
okay.
Other than privet, is there anything that the deer don't eat?
They eat everything. Depending on,
Yeah, you have to get deer
you know,
resistant.
what they're missing.
Pretty dark in there?
It is, yes, and you can't really see much, you know, you wouldn't really see much from the lake if you're on the lake, you know, of that area. There's a lot of low-lying trees around the edge, although we had a beaver come in and kind of remove quite a
He
bit.
helped us take down some trees, put it that way.
You have a permit.
No, we didn't.
Send them in.
No spiders.
Are there deer trails there now? Can you visibly see avenues or animals are walking?
I've only came up our lawn area and tried to go up an embankment of the neighbors. And I think it was a snapping turtle. It was
We saw
pretty
a
big, but that's the
bobcat
only.
during the
How tall
snow.
was it?
He was big, he was big.
You want to see if it was 4 inches?
What was he
Sorry.
wearing?
Well, I'm wondering about the 4 inches, I'm wondering if that's
Right.
high enough. Because I am thinking of box turtles, which can be a little bit taller than that.
Yeah, this
You know,
was,
4 inches is not all
usually-
that big.
It wasn't usually large turtle from what you normally see.
Oh, the
lake
snapping
there.
turtles can get
Oh, yeah, yeah.
really big.
And it kind of went back down. I don't know if it was trying to, you know, lay some
Not a
eggs,
good place for egg
plant some
laying.
eggs or whatever.
So how does the commission feel? I mean, I don't think we can set a precedent of granting, you know, Scott the ability to do
No, I
the,
agree.
the structure, but, I mean, I don't see any problem with the hedge as far as, you know, I don't even think that, Scott, how do you feel about that now that you're needing a permit?
It's a gray area.
Yeah,
Issues with the hedge are gonna be, how does it get installed? In order for it to get installed without equipment, it's gotta be small, and you're gonna have to wait a while, and you might wanna chime in, but I have a wooded yard, and in my yard, I've done a lot of landscaping for screening, and I can say that it's really hard to get stuff growing in the woods. I mean,
yeah,
the best way to
dark
get,
area, yeah.
the best way to get stuff growing in the woods is like, I had one very large tree came down, and it took out a whole bunch of things, and boy, the stuff grew great then, you know, because that's what I want. And then once it grows, it's okay, but the stuff that you plant in woods like that, what's gonna happen is you put it in, and usually it gets like leggy, because it doesn't have the sun, so it'll grow. Like you could put like mountain laurel or rhododendron or something like that. You put it in, it looks great for a couple of years, and then it gets like all stringy and leggy, and that's not gonna be what you want. You want something that's thick and it's gonna look like it's gonna be a barrier.
Yeah, we do have some, I forget what it's called, it's that yellow flower that kind of,
Forsythia?
yeah, and that thing really takes off and end up getting the hedge trimmer
Yeah,
all the time.
I don't know if.
But we have some of
I,
that
I
along.
wouldn't, I wouldn't put that in this area.
That's not
Okay.
that's not gonna go well in the woods, but,
Yeah, it does, it's not a, it's a-
I
So-
have a question. Could we just put, if it can't be deer fencing, you can't just put like the sticks and have the sticks go through, like if I made a fence and it's a see-through and I make it lower than the deer fence? You know, like,
a split
like,
rail.
yeah, where people like if you go riding, you jump over that type of
oh,
Yes,
yeah.
split.
fence.
That's
Could
a
I,
split
could we
rail.
put
Split rail.
something like that?
Well, again, it's
It's
a.
still a structure.
It's probably about the same concept,
You
yeah.
know, the other thing I'll bring up too, and
Yeah, but you
don't
need-
kill the messenger here, but the other thing is, it needs a floodplain permit, believe it or not. Because the other concern is that if you have a flood, it floats away, and it could damage other properties. So the floodplain permit makes sure that it's secured properly, that it has more than 50% space for floodwaters to flow through, so that it won't become a problem.
Yeah.
So those are the two issues with it. You know. What's that?
Barbed wire from tree to tree.
Barbed wire. Yeah, it's a difficult situation. I don't.
You're trying to
Oh,
stop
barbed
people.
wire.
Yes, we're trying to stop people from trespassing. I'm also trying to protect the young kids that are younger than mine. I'm telling my kids you can't pass this area when their friends are over and they have siblings. I mean, in my eyes, if I had a pool, I'd have to have a fence around it. This is a huge lake. I can stop, the fence is kind of stopping the child from getting to the water where I could save them. No fence, freelance, they can get to the lake.
And you think if you put the top fence and you just forgot about the sides, you think they'll go out beyond?
Kids are kids.
Well, there's another
yeah.
neighboring property next to.
Well, could you go along the upright fence and then take a left?
Well, like we
See what I'm
are,
saying? So they can't.
we're doing half an L, like we're going all the way down and then we're turning.
Well, you're going
and
towards
then
the
we're
water.
stopped.
Could you turn away from the water? So you're creating the other direction, so they can't, you know what I mean? They'd have to go up the property and then down the other person's property to make it.
I don't-
Well, bear in
Does that
mind,
make
they could
sense?
go this first 30 feet here.
Yeah, and we can do
They-
that.
That's outside the
Yeah.
upland
Right.
review.
Upland review,
So
yeah.
they can make this,
Without even
the other
having-
thing that I brought up is that
Well,
protection for their children, in the yard here, I was suggesting putting a fence at the end of their yard that keeps them in the yard and they can't get beyond that. Put a gate or something so that you can get access to the rest of your yard. But to keep your kids in a safer spot and their friends, the other option is to take this fence that goes to the water and put the fence over
Okay,
here at
because-
an angle.
Okay, I'm almost confused. That's your house there.
This is the house here.
Okay, so you're not protecting your own kids?
No,
Right.
because my kids are older. I have younger kids that aren't, and they're just, they're small. They're going to be adventurous. I'm stopping most of the kids on this side where the long wall is, but the other part, I can't stop the kids and they can get straight to the lake.
And you're talking
yeah,
about kids
it's
coming from the top,
where that
yeah.
yellow line is, I can't stop
from
nobody
coming
from
down
getting
towards
in.
your,
Yeah, and even the house
Okay.
there can just go around my fence and go, oh, it's a beautiful view. Kids love to throw stones, they love to go out, they love to fish. There's nothing, I can stop them. And even with trespassing signs, it doesn't work.
I think if you did a deer fence though, could they just cut through it or something?
Well, I don't think a 3 and a 4-year-old is going to get a coloring fence.
It's 3 or 4 year
Yeah,
old.
they're small and they're going to grow up, you know what I mean?
If
They're
a
very
split rail
small.
fence is, accomplish what you want, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that, because you don't really have to put that in concrete.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it's ever left alone and ignored, it'll just disappear.
Yeah.
And-
But it's still
and-
structural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it still needs some sort of approval, but to me, it's not gonna impact any animals. Deer aren't gonna,
Right, that's
deer are gonna jump over
So
it,
let's
anything's
say
gonna cross right through
Underneath
it.
it.
Yeah.
I'll
If
have a
it's
better
not
chance of
concreted in,
stopping
it's
them.
just a cedar post. It's not-
Yeah.
it's
I
not
know
a
some of the
big deal.
properties around the area have a split fence, but
Do you
they're
like-
not.
Do you like that concept or?
I was trying to save myself some money by going with the deer fence.
Oh.
But if the only way that I can kind of protect a child from getting to the water and seeing them rather than at the water, at least I can see them trying to come through the fence.
And
Because,
also not to obstruct the view too much
Yeah.
for some of the people around us.
and I mean, that other parts of the property, my kids play soccer. So I need to help them stop getting the ball, past the neighbors.
Right.
I mean, we're open to whatever you suggest.
So, even a split rail fence, I think it's still gonna need, an approval, so it would still have to, form an application through the office and come before the commission. It should be a pretty simple process, it's not a lot of construction, and as Jim mentioned, there's not any footings or anything like that. I don't know how the flood permit affects that, but that's not really that's more FEMA than us. So, I think technically, if there's any structure going into that 100-foot line to the water, it needs to be a permit to this commission. Scott can't approve it just because it's woods, it's not on your plan, it's
So
already
the bottom
disturbed.
line is it gonna cost me?
There is an application fee and
It's
the
a
office can walk you through.
$735 fee.
Okay, that can stay. And I've done my best to protect. At this stage, if there's nothing that can go there, the weeds, the plants, whatever grows there, at this stage, other than I will maintain it to look picturesque versus not something
So I would
wild.
suggest the plantings, because that's the one thing that,
There's like I have going
Boxwoods.
down,
yeah, boxwoods would be
boxwoods
fine,
down
they'll
there,
grow.
just to make some
Yeah.
type of barrier.
Mhm.
Yep,
Okay,
Because the
I can go
plantings
with
are
that.
the least,
evasive,
yeah,
or invasive, or evasive.
in need of the
But we
permit.
can come to the curve, we can come to the first 50 feet.
Yes,
And then the 100,
well, so the 100 from the water
yep,
is where it has to stay out of.
okay. I can work with that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much for coming before us.
Thank you.
so you can
Thank
do a
you.
fence anywhere that's outside of that dotted line.
That red
The
line.
yellow one. Oh, the
Yeah,
red
so
one,
this
yeah.
fence here
That can
and
go
here,
in.
you can do that.
You can do that.
Yep, no problem.
Okay,
So
No, without
you
asking.
put the fence, you stop it here, and then this section here, you
You
go
have
to
to do
the,
the planting.
And
go
how
to the
far in,
nursery and find
how
out
far
what
in
to grow.
are you going down that side?
It's 100 feet from the, you measure 100
Oh,
feet.
from the edge,
From the
okay.
edge of the water.
Okay.
Well, that keeps them out of the floodplain too, or we just don't know what that looks like?
That depends on the FEMA map, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
well,
It
we're
should.
not
I
in
mean,
it.
100
Yeah.
feet is quite substantial.
I'll have to take a look at that.
We're-
And it looked
Technically
like
now,
there
we're not
was
in it,
some-
You're not
because
in
we're
it.
not paying flood insurance, and we had it surveyed for that.
Okay, good.
So where our house is and that, we're not in the flood zone.
So just before
Is
you
your-
do that, though, make sure you check with P and Z.
Is the grade,
It
is
may
the
not
grade
require
flat
power.
here? Is it fairly flat? I mean,
Yes. Mhm. And then there's an embankment that goes up.
Yeah, I'll tell you that my knowledge of this area, I think you're in the floodplain. I think what's happening is this is not a, what you call, this is a undetermined floodplain elevation.
Right.
What that is FEMA puts out a pictorial representation of the floodplain. The floodplain's not determined pictorially. And so what happens is you have to have an engineer come up with an evaluation of where the floodplain is. Now, the reason I know is because there was a house that went in over here at 75 Turkey Roost.
Oh, okay.
And when they went in, the engineer did that. And so we have an elevation that's been determined over here. So, Joe, I'm just telling you, for your own information, you may want to find that out, because I think your house is in the floodplain over there.
It's right on
It's
the,
on the cusp,
Yeah.
there's that corner that's allowing us not to be in the
Yeah,
floodplain from where the
pictorially,
house
but if
is.
you go by the elevation, it's flat there, I think you're gonna find the whole house is in the floodplain. I can give you that information if you're interested in it, it's up to you whether you wanna take it any
Research
further.
it, yeah.
We don't require that people get flood insurance for their existing structures, that's usually banks. When you
Yeah,
go to
when we-
refinance and things
When
like
we
that.
got,
Yeah.
when we
they
refinanced,
did
we
the
had
flood
it done.
certification at that
Mm.
time. They
Right.
determined our house wasn't in, other people, parts of the property obviously are in
Yeah.
the floodplain.
I think
The
it might
house-
be incorrect, but
Property.
just
got-
for your
you
own
got-
information, you
yeah.
might wanna check that
Huge,
out.
yeah.
On this
Huge
second
difference.
picture, what is is this a series of stumps?
Yes.
Okay. Because rocks could work too, you know, a wall.
Like boulders.
Oh, that's not considered a
Well,
structure.
We seem to grow them in Connecticut, so if you happen to find rocks, then you just put them
Listen, if you
there,
want some rocks,
that's like completely.
Is there any
unlike-
height
I got a bunch
restriction?
of them, you could have them.
You don't want it to fall.
Right, you don't want something
Yeah,
that necessarily
we put
high,
those
but you
there
want
to
it
stop the
delineation.
ball from going through. type of
Yes,
thing.
balls can be a problem, definitely,
Yep.
so,
So,
okay.
just one last point. So Scott, if we're going down to that 100 foot, is that gonna present an issue even though there's cementing in the posts for the deer fence going up to that 100?
Going to the 100-foot?
Yeah,
At the
going
marker.
down from the back corner there.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, he
like-
said we could do that.
Right there, no, because you're outside the 100-foot regulatory area, so
Okay.
you can just do that. You don't
But I know
have
you were
to-
concerned with the floodplain.
No,
which-
no, the floodplain is another issue that I
Okay.
kind of have to look at, but
But
I
this can
have
be
to
done
look
with
at
the,
that. Well, we can talk
we just
offline
processed
about
the
that.
agent approval for.
Yeah,
for
about
that.
the,
Yes.
that doesn't even need an agent approval because it's
Okay.
outside the regulated area, so.
Right.
Oh, right.
P and Z though.
P and Z.
Yeah, you just need to Deal
Well,
with
it's,
planning and zoning. The zoning department,
Ju-
Joe.
Yeah.
Zoning enforcement.
Okay. Thank you again for
Thank
coming.
you.
folks.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
good
you.
evening.
Okay, moving on to the deliberation portion of our agenda. First deliberation we have is IWC 2017-05, 296 Gardner Road, DeCarlo, proposed single-family dwelling. This was from our last meeting. We received a draft approval via email. I'll entertain a motion for purposes of discussion.
I did make the,
I'll second.
it was the LID.
Can we make,
Oh,
well,
fix that.
somebody make a motion, you say second, or?
You moved, did you move?
I said I'll entertain, I can't
Oh, I
make
thought
the
you made a
motion.
motion.
No, I can't make it.
I'll make a motion.
All right, a motion by Jeff, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Lois. Are there any changes to the draft approval, or we will have Scott do a quick review of it?
Okay, I'll go over, I noticed the first page should say 1 of 5, so we can add that. So this is a 5-page approval. It lists the application, the submission drawings. It goes on to list the 2 findings that you came up with. Those were highlighted in yellow for you. It then goes on to talk about items that needed to be addressed within the 270 days, sightline plan and profile alterations, to verify no off-site grading will be needed, et cetera, and a relocated limit of disturbance line at the northwest corner of the property that more closely lines up with the proposed limits of grading. The standard comments from there, filing of the approval, the completion of the conditions, after the completion of the conditions of filing on the land records. It goes into item B, which is conditions to be addressed prior to construction, the standard items, looking at a $2,500 bond, which is unique to this application. Then to C, conditions to be addressed prior to issuance of certificate. I believe those are all boilerplate. Boilerplate for item D, condition to be addressed prior to bond release. Item E, your standard requirements that go in all the approvals. Item F, timing expiration, that's all standard language. And then the rest of it is all standard qualification statements and language.
Okay. Any discussion on changes or any general questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, we have an abstention by Megan and Jim. Everybody else is in approval. Okay. Moving on to section 8, bond releases, I-13-10, 44 Mustang Drive, Renz, bond release request.
All right, so Conrad did his bond inspection. We found that all the work was completed, everything's in compliance, and we're recommending a bond release.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for a bond release.
Motion to release.
A motion by Jason, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Megan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
I'm sorry, it was Jason and Megan?
Yes.
Yes.
Jason first, Megan second.
Uh,
All right, then next, section 9, we'll move on to time extensions. IWV 2016-18, 409 Cross Hill Road, Capozello.
All right, you might remember this. This was the
Elliot.
property owner that came in and you had your remediation or your follow-up meeting to the notice of violation. This was the property that had an approved plan, an approved wetlands plan for the construction of the house. It had 75 plantings along the side yard, which was adjacent to a pond in the neighbor's property. And we determined that they had cleared it and, or it looked like they had cleared it, and it turned into a lawn. They came before you and he told you that most of it died, and he thought that it died because they were saturated or didn't have water or something. And the plants all died. You told him that he could handle it to go back out there and put the plantings back in, reestablish the buffer plantings that were originally approved. He came in to take out the permit to do that, and we went through a few things, we explained a few things, and he doesn't want to do the planting plan that was originally approved, because he doesn't think that they'll do well. There were a number of white pines, which are just kind of difficult to deal with, and he would rather do an alternative planting plan. So I said, well, in that case, you would need to come before the commission with a submission and let them do their thing with that, and he's agreeing to do that. And so he wants to do that, so he needs a little bit more time to put that together. So his deadline was, I don't know what his deadline was. Do we have that, Donna? 409 Cross Hill, by any chance?
I do not, I apologize.
I didn't write it down either. I think his deadline is coming up soon. It's like, I want to say July. I would say that,
July 29th. Remediation work must be completed no later than July 29th.
Right.
the remediation work must
Yeah.
be completed by July.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
so he's
I
gonna
forgot.
need time to make the submission to you.
Yeah.
Um,
So, as Commission, being our abbreviated summer schedule, do you want to give 60 days from this meeting, which I think puts us out at least past our August meeting?
So that's only 30 days from July 29th?
Yeah, so it's an additional 30
That's to
days or
submit a
60
plan.
days to submit a plan.
Can we
from
just
now.
say how many he has until the August meeting, instead of doing
Yeah,
60
we can
days?
do
Like,
that.
how many days until the August meeting, say?
Yeah, they
by
should
the
be
August
Yes,
submitted
you
meeting?
want
at
him,
the-
you want him
the
to
August
submit
meeting.
at August meeting.
Okay.
Right,
Well,
it's just,
we'll do
he's
the
just
one
gotta
after.
put together the plan, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well, it should be submitted right before that to look at, so that we should, right?
Or- I
Yeah,
guess-
I'll
I
do the
guess you're
date
right.
on that.
Within,
I'll do
yeah,
like the
5 days
Wednesday
before, yeah.
just like a regular submission.
We
So
got
they
it.
can mail it out to you guys.
Yep,
August meeting, so we'll relay that information.
we probably should have a motion though, because it was a determination previously, so I'll entertain a motion. For,
So moved.
Second.
all right, we have a motion by Lois, and second by Jason, just to understand that motion is to have an application 5 days, or
Yep,
7 calendar days before our next meeting. Or sorry, our August meeting.
August.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next one, IWV 2017-04, 139 Hattertown.
I did find the letter, and it said, to the Wetlands Commission, we need a 2-week time extension for submission of remediation and restoration form and associated documents.
Well, they have plenty of time now.
Okay, so, yeah, that'll work fine.
Yeah.
All right, so this next one, 139 Hattertown Road, this is the Crisac. This is the property owner that had the conservation easement in the backyard, remember with the boardwalk?
Yep.
And so what's happened is they've actually resolved the boardwalk problem, because what they did was they took down the boardwalk on their property and left the boardwalk on the abutting property, which doesn't have a conservation easement. And the way they did that is, apparently it's very wet in the abutting property, and the boardwalk's there, but on their property isn't quite as wet, and they put a couple of flat rocks, so they're gonna step on the rocks, go up on the boardwalk and do their thing. So that's been resolved. However, he needs a little bit more time, because he's trying to come up with his submission plan, and he's wrestling through the landscaping, and he's got some ideas, and he hasn't really finished putting it together yet. So he's asking for,
He was asking for that's the letter I just read.
okay, that's the way.
He's
Yeah.
requesting 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right, so what would you give
So
him
let's
till
give
the July
him,
meeting?
let's give him till the August meeting. July's busy.
July is really busy, I really don't
July
want anybody
is
sitting through
really
that.
busy.
Yeah, maybe we're busy.
I mean,
Yeah, well,
let alone the stuff that left this meeting, there's also this.
That's
August
true.
doesn't look like it's gonna be much better.
Yeah, so anyway, let's give them to 7 days before the August meeting.
August?
Yeah,
Okay, do you wanna make?
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Jason, do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Megan. This is for 7 days before the August meeting to put in the submission.
What day is the August meeting?
20-something.
Oh, I'm at the schedule.
Hold on.
We'll do that in the record, Rebecca.
The August meeting looks like it's the 23rd of August.
All right, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. All right, IWC Agent Activities Report, Section B. Go ahead, Scott.
I apologize, I did not catch.
So,
read that much.
under agent approvals,
Jason and Megan.
we're listing 3 approvals that have been fully resolved, signed off, letters sent out, and we're gonna put them back in the file. They were for the above-ground pool at 60 Stonewall, a remediation citation at Delmatico, the 571 Pepper Street, and the 38 North Road, which was a remediation for violation. Just for Jeff's benefit and a reminder for the commission, we were processing remediations through issuance of agent approvals, and we've learned that that's really not the best way to process them. So now we process them through the remediation submission form, which either goes the route of coming to the commission and you guys resolve it at the commission level, or you tell me that I can resolve it at an administrative level, just for the real basic ones, like, put in 3 markers and call it a day kind of.
Especially if it's in previously.
We don't use the agent approval, because the agent approval, just like the application process, is set up for development, and that's not appropriate for remediation.
And it has large timelines and
Yeah,
bond
because of the
requirements.
timelines and the bonds and that kind of stuff, yes.
Okay.
All right, so that's what's happening. That permitted uses as of right with the Public Works Department, I don't have anything to report. And that brings us to item 11, enforcement.
Enforcement, okay. Section B, administrative review. We have IWV 2016-09 and 2016-10, 1603 Monroe Turnpike and 1615 Monroe Turnpike, Mondo, filling activities in regulated area.
So 1603, 1615 Monroe Turnpike, what happened with that one, we're having trouble keeping track of all these. There are a lot of them.
The deadlines are.
And I think you guys are probably having trouble too, because this came before you, and you said that you wanted to go look at it, and you never did. And so we never sent out, you never made a determination on it. Now, it doesn't really matter at this point in time for this one, because what's happening is they went to planning and zoning for a zone change, so they've been kind of mucking their way through some posturing and things like that they're doing with zoning, to put them in a place where they feel that they can address wetlands. So they got their zone change, it's complicated, but there is a second zone change that goes with it that the town is actually processing on their own. That's pending right now, but I'm just telling you about this because you probably should make that
Determination.
Site visit and then make a determination when this has to be brought before you, because we're reaching a point where they should be coming to you, I
Okay.
think. So that's where we are with that. I thought I'd just remind you and ask what you wanted to do.
Yep.
Is this the 1603 and 1615 that you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. And again, on these violations, you really need to see it.
Yeah, so do we have contact information on this one? Because I'm sure that's way buried in my email. Do we can dig that
We
back out?
can find it.
Yeah, if you could find it and send it back out, just so if there's anybody we're supposed to reach out to go onto the property.
This really, that's at the bottom of 111.
Was there anything like filed or any maps
Yeah,
or?
there are files.
They came before us. They
Oh,
did.
this is
There's a lot of stuff with this.
could you mark down that Jeff needs, that you didn't get a copy of the,
No,
Not
sure you
that.
didn't.
okay, so what we do with enforcement actions is we provide, and you're gonna see, I'm gonna do that, next.
Okay.
But, we provide a report to the commissioners. And it goes out to the violator as well. And that report will explain what the problem is and give you a little sketch of it. In addition, there is.
Like the one we got
there
for
are
127 Main Street.
some old approvals that were granted years ago for the properties.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, without going into great
Yeah,
detail.
and we did have them come before us to try to explain, and that's when probably more stuff got dug up that we need to really see it. 'cause-
Yeah.
This commission deals, we've been dealing with, we process violations through use of the notice of violation. Kind of different than other commissions and other towns do. A lot of towns use the order. They issue an order, and then they have a follow-up meeting to the order is a show cause hearing. But there's a lot of red tape that goes on with that. This commission found that they're actually getting the results they need from issuing a notice of violation, asking the applicant to come before them, and then working something out through a submission. And then if they don't keep up with their schedule or don't adhere to what they promised, then we go to a citation, and then that would kick in fees. If that doesn't work, we can circle back around and issue an actual order for court action as well. We haven't had to do that yet. We've been relying on the citation process.
Had pretty good results with it so far.
All
Just
right,
makes our
so
agenda
that's
a
what's
whole lot
happening with
more
that. So I'll put
Yeah.
down that you guys are going to inspect it, and you're gonna provide input on the schedule at the July meeting.
Yep, as long as we can get contacts updated.
All right, so the next one is 127 Pond View,
No,
No.
127 Main
Main
Street.
127 Main Street Pond View is the name of it. This, I don't think anybody but Lois was around when this was
Yeah.
approved. I wasn't here.
I wasn't on the commission yet, I
And you
just
weren't-
watched it, I was
okay.
in the audience.
All right, you weren't on the commission. So, this is a piece of property behind,
Dunkin' Donuts and the Shell Station.
what is it? The
Dunkin' Donuts
Dunkin'
and the
Don-
Shell Station.
Okay, Dunkin' Donuts and Shell
And
Station.
more importantly,
Very
Baskin
The
Robbins.
hillside, and it was approved for a shopping center. It had all kinds of issues with the approvals, both from Wetlands and P and Z, that didn't even comply with regulations at the time. There was litigation. It got quite involved. Make a long story short, they got their authorization to proceed with phase one of their work, which was initial earth excavation, no rock excavation, just initial earth excavation. And they've started that. They've cleared the property, and it just looks like a Scud missile.
Have you been by there?
Yeah,
Oh, my
looks like a Scud missile went off.
Yeah.
God. Several.
Yeah, so they're doing their excavation, and that's okay. But what you'll see, and here's a sketch of it, is the Main Street is right here. I don't know if you want to flip that to the, Main Street is at the bottom of the screen here. And here's their entrance drive in. Well, in front of this development is a large wetland area, and then there was a 100-foot upland review area. There was a stone wall in the upland review area, and then even additional land beyond the stone wall. They have cut all of the trees in this purple area, and they were very large trees. So those trees are all cut. Last time I went by, I want to say a week and a half ago, the trees were all sitting there.
They're still sitting there.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know if the trees actually touch the wetland, but they come close, because it's about 65 feet to the wetlands.
But
If I'm not mistaken,
From
this
the-
morning when I drove by, it looks like a bunch of those enormous boulders that they were pulling out are rolling down that hill as well.
Okay, all right, so that's happening too. So basically, this is the process where I provide, here's the report that I was talking about, Jeff, that this lists the origin of the violation, the contact person, associated permits, and available records and description of the violation. So you get that with every application. That gives you a little bit input. And then you get this, not application, violation, thank you. And then you get a sketch similar to this. I've asked Conrad to kind of do away with the image, because that was making it really confusing. So we're gonna try, these I think are a little easier to read. And then we'll
If we have a
provide the
plan- If we
images.
have a plan.
We'll provide the
Right.
images where we
Not all
need.
of them, not all of them have a plan.
What?
Not all of our
Violations.
violations have a plan. that they put on
Right,
top
this
of it.
had an approved plan, so it
Yeah.
was easier. So, at this point, what we do, is the commission reviews the report and then provides some advisement to me on how they want to proceed with, processing this.
Which-
I'm assuming that you're gonna tell me that you want a notice of
Yeah,
violation.
notice of
Yeah.
violation, yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and issue the notice of violation, and that asks the owner applicant to come before your commission at the next meeting and discuss it with you informally. And then after that meeting, you'll go out and look at it and then tell me how you want it processed. I'm gonna assume that in this case, when it involves this type of activity, you typically say that you want it to be a submission directly to the commission.
How about a cease and desist also? Because if they're rolling boulders down the hill on a regular basis, they're creating more problems.
Okay, I have not seen the boulders.
I haven't either, Jason did, but I mean,
We can go see it first.
yeah, we should go see it. But perhaps, you know, cease, at least in that area,
Okay.
they should stop all work.
I will tell you also that the inland wetlands permit for this development has lapsed.
Well, this is the one that was in court for
Okay,
like 7
now
years.
hear me out. I just got the input from the attorney, from their attorney, Fuller, I guess his name. That information was sent to the town attorney. The issue here is that the planning and zoning approval for this was appealed for many years, for a number of years.
Mm.
And typically, when an application is appealed, the timing is tolled. They toll the timing, meaning they
Add it to
kind of
the end.
hold it. The question that was asked was, that is for the planning and zoning application. The inland wetlands application was not appealed. So the question is the inland wetlands application directly linked to the planning and zoning application and therefore tolled along with the planning and zoning application? Because if it was, then they have not lapsed. If it has lapsed, we need to issue a cease and desist and pull the bond for the inland wetlands application. So it's a big issue, and I'm trying to get information from the town attorney on it. So why don't you guys why don't we issue the notice of violation? Hopefully I'll have some input for you at the next meeting as far as what's happening legally. And then meanwhile, they'll come before you to explain what they're doing, find out from them, what's going on, what they propose to do to resolve the issue, and then you can make your decision at that point.
Yep.
In that letter, though, you should also say that they need to immediately install soil erosion sedimentation controls.
I think that is in, but it's not, I think it needs some attention.
Needs to be in.
Beefing up.
Yeah,
There's a lot
so-
of trees are laying on top of it.
Yeah. that's-
Well, I mean, you could see the top of the hill when if you drive by, Dunkin' Donuts on your way home today, and you look up, they have to be 12 foot on the edge.
Okay. Notice of violation. Moving on, IWV 2017-02, 98 Enterprise Drive, Pepper Street Business Park, mitigation plan.
Okay, so, there's a story behind everything, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
This one, you issued a notice of violation. They came before the commission. I don't know if you remember, there were two gentlemen that came before the commission. They were
Yeah,
new
recently.
buyers. And you gave them to July 14th to submit a remediation plan. They hired Larry Edwards. Larry has looked at it and has come up with this plan. There was discussion at that meeting that you wanted them to do some immediate work to protect the area, meaning put in some silt fence and things. When he went out and looked at it, he came to me and he said, well, I think it calls for more than that immediately. And so what he's done is he's submitted this plan, which, another one of these things with the, okay. So he submitted this plan which calls for the existing detention basin to be utilized as a sediment trap, install six foot over, riprap overflow, grade berm to maintain 24-inch freeboard above the overflow and seed all the disturbed areas. He wants to temporarily riprap the swale to direct runoff into the sedimentation trap up here. So there's a little swale he wants to put in with some stone. Over here, he wants to put a berm, a small berm along the top of this thing, construct a 12-inch high temporary berm along the top of the existing wall in the area of existing stockpiles to direct runoff to the riprap swale, which goes to the sedimentation basin. And then he wants to lumen seed and mulch all disturbed areas below the wall. The areas below the wall are this cross-hatched area. In the original approval that was granted for this property, this area was all like a 2-to-1 slope that went all the way down to this LOD line. The LOD line's way down here, and so they have approval to regrade all that. This area here was where the septic system was supposed to go.
Right.
They did not install the septic system yet, but for some reason, this has been cleared and graded and is in need of being stabilized. They were supposed to extend the stone wall and fill in the gaps on this stone wall as the limits of their development, and this was supposed to be extended. They never did that. So Larry gives me this plan, and he wants a go-ahead immediately to go in there and start doing this work. Meantime, they want an extension to go a little bit beyond the 7/14/17 meeting to give you a plan, because what they're doing is they're saying this is our initial temporary remediation plan. They want to come in August with a site development plan for a new building, but they're working on that right now. They're not sure what they want to do and how they want to do it, so their intention is to come in. So my suggestion would be to, I'm assuming you probably will allow them a little bit more time, especially if they do this initial work. You'll allow them some time to do the development plan. In that, I think you should tell them that, you got to submit that by a certain date, and that if your development plan is not done by that point, you have to submit a permanent remediation and restoration plan. If you agree with that, then just give me a date that you want them to do that, and then you also need to weigh in on what he's proposing down here. Whether or not that's acceptable, whether you want other stuff done, whether you want him to come before you and explain that, or just what you want done.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yes, any question you like?
So there was a previous approval, wetland permit on this.
Yeah, what happened with this, real quick, is there was an approval for a building, site development. They're gonna put a building in here, and they had parking and the whole thing.
Yep.
They met the conditions, they had the pre-construction meeting, they went out, we thought they started building the site. So they started creating the detention basin, they cleared the lot, they started bringing fill in, they started moving material around, and then we noticed that the building wasn't happening, and they set up shop there with a construction yard, bringing stuff in, storing equipment.
More of a mining excavation?
No, they
activity,
weren't
or-
mining, they were using the lot for a construction yard,
Oh, okay.
storage of equipment and
A
materials.
different use.
We issued the violation, they then moved out and they sold the property, but they didn't remediate. These people come along, they bought the property, they want to use it for the same use, but they're not ready to put up their new building yet. So they came before the commission for the notice of violation meeting, and they told them, look, we just bought it, we'd like to build on here. we don't want to put all kinds of trees and remediation in that we have to rip out. So, can we have some time to do the development plan for that? And what their engineer's saying now is, I'm proposing these measures that I just went over, we'll do that right away. And while we're waiting the next couple of months, that will be in place for stabilization. And then whatever you guys say you want it by, they'll come in with a development plan, or I'm suggesting, or a permanent restoration and remediation plan.
Yep.
Does any of this detention basin on the north side, is that existing?
The detention basin on the north side is an application that's before the commission. You'll notice in your
It's
pending.
not on this property,
Yeah, it's on the next door property.
partially.
It is, yeah. And so what's happening is the abutting property, they are expanding this detention basin, so they're trying to meet all of the attenuation capabilities on their own property. So they are actually making the basin bigger and addressing the issues for this detention basin. That property also, they started building the detention basin, and they have.
They did the same thing.
They did all the same stuff.
Mhm.
Same thing went on there, different property owner. The problem with that property is they're coming in with a site plan that we feel doesn't comply with zoning because they're not proposing a building. And there's some legal issues going on with that. So I think what's gonna happen is you guys have to process your application on its own merit and let it follow a progression, and let's see what happens.
Is
That
there
should
still
be,
fence all the way up along the wetland boundary, the way they're showing?
what's that?
Is there still fence up here on the site?
I believe there's still fence there, or there was, yeah. So I gotta get out there, and if, we have to evaluate it, but he's, obviously, this silt fence down the bottom has to be either installed or reinstalled. At this point, it probably needs some attention. And then he's proposing all this other stuff to redirect the runoff so it doesn't go down the slope and it doesn't involve the wetlands. It's gonna go over to where this basin eventually is gonna go. They're gonna make that into, at least initially, you're gonna use it as a sedimentation basin.
Yeah, one of the things I wanna look at out here is if there's any damage already to the wetlands through sedimentation from the runoff.
I'm
if it was
told
uncontrolled.
that there isn't. I'm told, well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I have to rely on the inspectors. And one of the things that kills me is I don't get out to these sites the way I should. And I keep saying I have to get out there, and I just can't. I just can't get to it. So I rely on
Well, that's why you have inspectors.
right.
Good.
So the last time they were out here, they
But to
told me
clarify,
the
it's not
silt
the,
fence
it's not the
Something-
property
right.
owner that's saying there's not violation.
Right, it's the
Monroe
inspector. It's
Yes,
Monroe's
correct.
inspector.
Oh, okay, I thought you
Yeah,
meant it.
I
Right,
think,
that's what I
I think
thought.
I misunderstood that.
No,
That's what I
I don't
said.
rely on the property.
No, everything's fine.
We're all good here.
No problem. I believe that is the actual headwater of the.
So this
of
is
the
just a
village.
temporary fix until they can come in?
It's a hold, yeah.
So they can come in with their,
Yeah.
Sounds,
Yeah,
and because they're dealing with all this stuff with zoning, right?
yeah. I mean, the only thing I'd say to the mention that Scott mentioned is, again, this August meeting's looking atrocious. Is it outside the realm of possibility to even tell them that they have until September to apply?
Okay, here's some pictures of the site.
Well, but for stabilization, we really need it
This,
earlier.
this is the
Well,
upper
they-
portion.
Well, the stabilization, I wanna say, go with the stabilization you're presenting today.
This is the driveway that goes down. Here's,
Mhm.
that's up at the top near the road. They
Yeah.
actually put this little kiosk up there.
Oh, way station.
This is the driveway coming down. That's what they're doing to the site.
Yep.
You can see the backhoes down below there, and they had their stuff kind of hidden away in the little pocket. That's back by where the detention basin is.
I don't know what the problem is.
More equipment, more piles.
Can't see it, it's not a problem, right?
So this is what they were using it for.
Actually,
I'm
this-
hoping he has a picture here of the bottom.
There it is.
That's the detention basin. That's looking down the slope from the wall. I didn't see silt fence. There's the silt fence, okay, so the silt fence is down along the wetlands, I don't
It's
know.
actually
why-
not in bad
It does
condition.
look like it stops there, but I'm not sure where that picture is.
Notice how
I
all
think
the
that's
pictures-
coming up the hill is what that is, so it comes up high enough where it's,
Oh, okay, that's why.
because there's the rest of it there. I see a little bit of what looks like, well, and that might just be storm damage on the
Yeah.
other side.
It does look
And
semi-natural,
where are these areas that they have to stabilize?
right there.
Do you have a
Right,
picture?
all the pictures I just showed you, all that stuff, that's.
But I'm
all-
saying the stone there?
No, there.
I mean,
That
it looks
whole
already
area
pretty
up in-
stabilized.
Up in there, they, you know, the dust coming off of that processed stone and everything comes down, is going down over the slope here, down the slope.
I
So
mean,
he
my
wants
only,
to
my
put a-
only worry is if they're gonna topsoil it, mulch it, and
Well,
then
what
they
they're
come
sa-
back and say, oh, well, we're done. You know,
Well,
and then when we tell them, oh, you gotta dig it back out and regrade it,
Well, I think needs to be, you're right, and that needs to
they're
be
gonna
said, so
say,
there's
well,
no
it's already,
expectation
it's
that this
already
is,
Well, that's
seeded, its
why-
grass is beautiful.
like the sizing of the basin, I mean, they
that's
have
why what I
to
was gonna
blow it all
suggest
out.
tonight, that your input that goes to them should be, look, you can do this initial work to help protect the area, but you don't consider that a remediation plan.
In any way, shape, or
That
form.
by August or September, whatever you decide, you want a plan, a permanent, you want either a permanent site restoration and remediation plan for the entire site, or you want the development plan that's gonna wrap up everything on that.
And the
That's what I
note,
was-
and the note with that, because we've gotten that trap before. So if there's a site development plan, the remediation may have a separate time frame than the rest of the plan. You know what I'm saying? So like if they come in a plan and
That's
get
right.
10 years for the plan, no. You have our normal remediation part to do the part that's part of the remediation, and the 10 years to build the actual building.
Right,
That's
so
fine.
the way we're gonna do it, and this, it gets hard, because, when they come in with their development plan, that's right, like, you have to be careful to separate out, okay, what of this plan is remediation that you want done immediately? And that, you're gonna say in your approval that that needs to be done with a certain time frame. And then the development part of it, they have the typical 5 years, but remember, they don't have 5 years, because once they start their work, then they have to finish it. They don't have 5 years to have a scar that's opened on the landscape. Once they start work, they have to continue the work, or they have to stabilize, permanently stabilize. So we're gonna need to be careful how we word the remediation letters that go out. And we're just, this is evolving, we're trying to go get them better as we go along, and that's what's happening. But, we're not 100% there yet.
I would also suggest that Edwards change the title of the plan to stabilization plan and not even reference mitigation, because it's not.
Okay, so change
Yeah.
this.
Good
I like,
point.
very good point.
And there's no source of where he got some of the background, the wetland line, it's just, we don't.
Yeah.
He took it off the approved plan, because
But
that's what that
There's no
is.
sourcing, it's not
Yeah,
referencing anything.
okay, so let's, give me some bullets on what you want. So,
And North Arrow,
all right, so you want the plan, well, here's the thing. Sometimes when you say, have them do some protective work while we're waiting, most of the time, it's on a handshake. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, put the silt
Verbal.
fence up, do this, throw this in there, put some hay bales, and we're done with it. It's rare that you get a plan that says, reinstall the siltation control and reinstall the diversion ditches into the sedimentation basin. This just happens to be, he threw a plan together to kind of tell you that he's doing it. I didn't expect to get a plan. That's why the plan isn't polished off with
Right.
all the rest of the stuff. But I do understand what you're saying, Jeff, so I will ask him to complete the plan.
Yep.
At
So-
least so it has a north arrow and the proper title, and the scale and date and all that.
It's got a scale.
So let's talk a little bit about the timing. for the application? How long do we want to give?
It's not an application.
Hmm?
Well, which application you're talking about, for the
Well,
development or for, it's
It's
not
a
an application,
remediation
it's
submission.
Remediation submission, it can be included in a real plan, I mean, in a, what do you call it, if he wants?
August.
You think August?
Well, he's gonna have to do all this work and come up
Yeah.
with a plan.
Well, and that's a good point, we're gonna have to do a determination, and that will delay it till the September
Make
meeting
him do it in
anyway.
July, he's just asked for an extension and.
Yeah, all right, so,
You know,
well,
he's gonna,
definitely.
next spring, we're still gonna be giving extensions.
Yes, so let's do by the next meeting.
I think,
Next meeting's July.
We're in July now, or no,
No,
we do have
we're
a
not.
meeting in July, okay. So yeah, August then, yep.
So you're requesting a remediation plan or a real submission by August?
With the understanding that, and this is gonna be the tricky wording part, that the application, the
Okay.
real plan needs to include a sub-plan that says what parts are remediation, and will have a different timetable than the real plan. That's the tricky part.
That sounds good.
It's not too bad. Throw some like, 6-syllable words in there, it's just make it fun. Yeah. Whereas and therefores and call it a day.
Call it a night, how about that?
okay,
Yeah.
so I think we got
I was
that.
hoping I'd get daylight, I was really hoping.
All right,
surprise
so
cancellation.
that's that.
Okay, so general discussion, we do have regulation amendment subcommittee, but I don't know if we have any regulations that we need to know that we need to amend yet.
Well, we do have one, I
One?
know of one that was brought up at the Catholic meeting. Fortunately, they didn't tell everybody whose error it was, but it was ours. And we need to get that out of there. And I'd be very interested to hear what Jeff's comments were on our regulations, because I knew he read them. And so if you had any suggestions of additions, subtractions, alterations,
And you'd be more than
we would love it.
welcome to take my spot on the subcommittee.
on the subcommittee he meets.
The
not
trouble
as-
is they
not as
meet during the
chairman.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
well,
try to meet
Try to
during
meet
the
early in the morning.
Sometimes that's better
Oh,
for me.
it's better for
So-
me.
So, we'll just throw that out there. If you see anything that is glaring, that we
Feel free to
should
send it out to the full
hone
commission.
or change or whatever.
There's two things we need. We
Okay.
need to know who's on the committee.
Right
Three
now,
things we need. We need to know who's
Right
on
now-
the committee.
yeah, right now Megan, me, and Lois is my understanding, or Ross added the commission, I don't think.
Okay,
Ron
so,
was.
and all we
I
really
wasn't
want, we
invited.
don't want
Well, I
more.
don't
But we only
think
need-
you said you
we
couldn't meet during the
We
day.
only have, yeah, when did that get done?
All right, so we know the
Which we
people,
during the day.
we then
That
need to
always-
know when,
that's Jeremy's fault.
what changes are being considered.
That was 100% Jeremy's fault.
So if you have something, I guess,
What a weirdo.
send it
Yeah.
to
I
me.
have something, I just have to
Yeah,
remember.
so
to
send it.
And then
Once you
once
know.
we get what you have, then we can schedule the meeting.
And the meetings are open, so, we'll let the whole commission know we're meeting as a subcommittee. You're more than welcome to come. And if you want a permanent spot, just yell. There has to be one Democrat, so that's why I'm on it.
Even though we don't do politics.
We don't do
We
politics,
do
but
dirt.
it still has to be one
Politics
D.
fly.
Yeah. Politics does us. Anyway. And then public outreach committee's kind of the same spot. We actually don't have any commission members on that one per se.
Yeah, you guys are supposed to be talking that over and deciding what you wanna do.
I wrote something, but I didn't do
So,
anything with it.
We'll definitely bring that up in the
I
August
just
meeting.
wrote it.
For instance, I just got something yesterday from the town of Trumbull that put together a letter that went out advising all the property owners in their town about, that had waterfront frontage on practices for waterfront, and it's kind of ironic because of what you heard tonight, but, keeping growth within the waterfront, reducing, opening it up in lawns and what to do with your lawn and stuff like that. They sent that out because they didn't have, just like Monroe, they don't have too many properties that have direct waterfront. So they just looked that up in the GIS clerk's office and then send out letters to everybody to educate them on that.
All right, so
There's things.
mission
you
one,
can
steal
do.
Trumbull's letter.
Right. Yeah, anything that, we do need to do that. We really need to get a public relations thing going because people have no clue that wetlands are special and that they're regulated and so much of our agenda would be reduced if we didn't have so many stupid violations, and we get, oh, I didn't do that. So, it's just a matter of finding the information and finding the time to put it together.
And figuring out how to reach people.
Yeah, and make it in a form that they're gonna wanna read,
Yeah,
you know,
plus, I mean,
that's
so
a
our
lot.
budget, Mrs. Treasurer, how big is that?
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big, like zero.
You just add as many zeros to it as you
So
want.
how many people can we reach with $0?
Well, can you get it on the patch, like a, draft something up?
You can write any kind of letter to the editor we want, yep. There are ways.
It's just a matter of writing up the material and getting it in a form
In a mode
that's
that people will
attractive and
Read.
people want.
Can we combine like all land use and then direct people to maybe a different page on the website with a more
But they've got that.
usable,
They've got
more
all kinds
readable?
of stuff, there's all kinds of, what do you call them, useful
Jeremy was supposed to be
resources
writing a
that they
blog
have.
for us.
Yeah, there's a
But you
lot of
will?
information.
Yeah.
You need to have.
Blog for wetlands?
For wetlands, yeah. Wetlands from an attorney point of view, it was kind of, it was
He would-
interesting.
I mean, he had a blog, and he would talk about wetland stuff, but
Well, there's stuff you can do, I don't know if
But,
the town has a welcome package that, people that are moving
Used
to
to.
town.
I don't know if
Used
it's
to. When I moved in here, somebody
Yeah,
came to my house.
I
knocked on
don't
my
know if
door.
it's tied to the town, it might be tied to more of like a
there's
real
like
estate
some
group.
like committee
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
The
but I
welcome-
think that's
welcome
like,
wagon.
I know I said this before, but it really starts very much with when they buy the house, when they move, and
Or, yeah, when they're researching buying a house.
yeah, and, within, even just the community of lawyers, there needs to be more education within, to kind of, because there's lawyers who don't know what,
Right, yeah.
this kind of
And
stuff.
so the
I
education.
mean, I'm not saying that they should, because sometimes they don't do that kind of work, but, a lot of people do real estate closings, so it's, and I don't know the right.
No one ever looks at the land, they always look at the house.
You're not wrong, I mean, it's very common that they look at, they look at a title search, you'll look, but they don't.
Yeah, make sure
really
nobody has any
dig into it
claims on
as
the
much
property.
as, but that's changing,
It is changing, yeah.
That's changing.
Especially with
and-
all these people that are finding conservation easements.
Yeah, it's definitely changing, so I think, and now Connecticut has mandatory CLE for attorneys, so hopefully there'll be
CLE is what?
continuing legal education.
Oh, okay.
So we were the only state that didn't have it.
There you go, Lois, you could.
We're
do
number
a-
one.
You could do a seminar for them.
I could do
No,
it.
I'm not even kidding, it wouldn't be.
Oh, I'm such an expert on
I don't know, I
everything.
guess it has to be a,
Has to be a lawyer, I'm sure.
but, hey, I'll join you, and then you can.
There you go.
Make it CLE.
Well, any suggestions are helpful, it's just a matter of getting.
That sounds like a
together and-
fantastic suggestion.
When I used to work for the city of New Haven, and they used to do, I think it was like election day, when everyone was coming to the various, they would do if they ever wanted to reach a lot of people, that would be the day, they would, put handouts out or have people around, but I don't know if that really would extend here, but it worked,
We just have to do the right election.
Yeah.
Some of them don't get that big of a turnout.
Exactly.
Lois in a duck outfit.
Or like
Sign.
tax due
No, a
date.
salamander outfit.
Salamander outfit and a little sign,
Yeah, I'll dress up as like wetlands clerk.
No, because then, then Massac becomes a, what do you call it, pool of, we want it to be a class 1 pool. If you see.
Oh, tier one?
A tier one, no, vernal pool.
Actually, Nassau may have tier ones, so it's got some
true.
substantial wetlands on the back.
So that's that. So yeah, feel free to send out emails to the commission if you have any ideas for that. I do actually have a correspondence in my packet
Ooh.
from FEMA.
Oh.
Apparently Scott's been assaulting FEMA with lots of questions.
Really?
Yeah. There's a whole table here of all Scott Schatzline's comments. Like, are you the only one in like the whole area? Because this goes all the way down to Norwalk. Like, are you the only one asking questions, or like they just focus
What
on
do you
you?
mean questions?
Are you joking or let me
No,
see
no,
what
I'm
the
not joking. This is a letter from FEMA saying they're reevaluating our floodplains
Based on Scott Strassline.
based on Scott Chastline complaining. I mean, that part I'm joking about, but no, seriously, yeah, I mean, seriously, because you've put apparently a lot of responses and questions to them.
I
To
think
be,
that's the study, yeah, the study that
6
they
of them to be
did.
exact.
They had a meeting in Easton, and I went to the meeting, and they asked input from the different towns, so that was the.
So maybe they just.
that's my question. Are you the only one that gave input, or was
Huge
like
mistake.
There were other people there.
there were other
too.
people there, but or they just like targeted us with this letter and said, "Well, here's your
I-
comment."
Now,
I need
Scott was
to-
the only one.
I need to read the letter,
It's
so.
all by himself.
I don't think,
I have a copy, you can do it, I have one at the office, but here.
So
Okay.
it literally just keeps saying, Scott Sasson asked this, Scott Sasson asked this. So, you apparently pissed off FEMA.
Are we done?
Yeah,
Move
so,
to adjourn.
I have a
Oh,
motion
this is
to,
the risk management now.
Motion to adjourn.
I have 3 motions to adjourn. I need a second.
Second.
Third.
Oh, come on.
There we
We
go.
have
Lois and
and Jim, yeah. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.